So, Greg, you need to explain yourself. Showgirls.
Sure, I will. I think so. This is important to say. We oftentimes talk about how the definitive movie doesn't have to be the best movie. It could be the third best, fourth best. It doesn't. Quality doesn't have anything to do with it. This is my favorite example of that, in my opinion, because Showgirls is not a good movie. I do think there is. I do think it's misunderstood, which I'll get into in a little bit. It's still a misunderstood bad movie, but I think there's some interesting things going on in the movie, which make it semi rewatchable, I would say. But here's why I think it's definitive. For those who don't know, basically Showgirls is a story of a girl who comes to Vegas without barely a dollar to her name. She aspires to be a dancer. She makes it. She crashes. Basically, that's the long and short of her character arc. But what I think is definitive about Showgirls is it's kind of a deconstruction of the image of Vegas that is portrayed outside of the state, right? Because especially when you look at it today, like back when it was formed, through the 50s, 60s, 70s, like it was one of the few places you could gamble in the country. So everyone would go to Vegas if they wanted to play blackjack, wanted to do all that. That's not the case. You can gamble in, many states in the country now. So when you go to Vegas, what makes Vegas still Vegas is not really the gambling aspect of it, although it still makes up for it in volume of casinos. But it's let's be real, it's the tawdriness of it. It's the shows, it's the women, it's the strip clubs, it's all that stuff. But so Showgirls really gets into that because Showgirls is all about, it's very, pun intended, naked about what these clubs are really all about. Nomi Malone, played by Elizabeth Berkley, it's purely about her body. It's all about how fit she is. It's all about how she can basically please the customer. But what's the interesting part of it to me, though, is it's not very glamorous at all. Her ascent is not particularly portrayed in an artful way. I think the way she performs and some of the scenes where she is intimate with men, it's not particularly sexy. And I think it's actually designed to not be erotic, right? She's very rough, she's very fast, it's very, it's very chaotic. And I think that's sort of the point, because behind all the glitz and glam, like Vegas is basically Vegas isn't really selling you a dream, it's selling you a dream like on fast forward, right? Kind of like the Hangover, you said, you enjoy it all, really fast, really crazy, happens all, and then the crash happens after that. I think that's ultimately Vegas, in a nutshell, because Vegas behind the glitz and glamour, as Showgirls kind of gets into, is a lot of people living on not very well, not a lot of means, not a lot of riches to them. And when you're trying to make it big in that, you're objectified like crazy. It is just all about how you can perform, both on the stage and sometimes off the stage. If you get my meaning. So I think
I don't get your meaning. Please elaborate.
Bottom line, the definitive Vegas movie to me has to represent the glitz and glamour as well as the other side of it, the seedy side, or the criminal side of it when we get to other movies. And Showgirls, I really think, deconstructs Vegas the best. I think the definitive movie has to be a bit of it can't just be like what they showed a tour in, on the tours and that. It has to be what Vegas really is, both the good and the bad.
Interesting. A very analytical take on Showgirls.
What did you expect bringing me on here?
I was about to say, I expect nothing less. Well, I'm interested to hear what the listeners think. So obviously, when folks, go ahead, Greg.
Can I add two things? Sorry, I forgot about Showgirls.
Please.
So there's a big contingent of people who think Showgirls is good. They're out there. There's articles written about it. Even though I put as definitive, and again, I think it is misunderstood. It's bad, and it's bad for two fundamental reasons. One is Elizabeth Berkley is really bad. She should not have been cast as Nomi Malone. I think, Chris, you made the point earlier, like if that was Charlize Theron or some other like young up and coming actress, that's a very different movie. And I'll even say, if Gina Gershon, who by the way is great in that movie, if she's Nomi Malone, that's a very different movie and potentially better. The other problem is Nomi. The fundamental problem with that movie is you don't know Nomi Malone's why she's doing what she's doing until the very end, which is obviously a choice, but it just doesn't make sense in the movie. Sometimes that reveal at the end puts all the pieces together, but her behavior is so bizarre from the start to almost the end of it. It just makes you like, what the heck is she doing, and why? Like, it's crazy. It was just a bad script writing decision. That's the only thing I wanted to.
Which is kind of consistent when you think about Paul Hair
And Joe Esterhaus, the writer.
Yeah, it like, yeah, typically those movies collapse, if you will.
Well, it was built on a conceit that it didn't just like, I'm fine with like having mystery to why she's out in Vegas, but you can't have her behavior that erratic and crazy without some sort of explanation for why she's doing what she's doing. Otherwise, it just doesn't, it doesn't make for a good movie.